What's happening, everybody? Welcome inside a brand new edition of the Tall Can Audio Podcast. Matt Robinson with you, as always, in the TCA studio in beautiful Bytown, Canada, talking to our buddy Graeme Nichols from the Hockey News and the Coming In Hot podcast, just back from Brady Tkachuk's media availability. We'll get into that, but how are things, man? What's going on?
Not too bad, man. What's going on, Matt? I feel like it's been a bit. I can't remember the last time we did this. It was probably 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago.
Maybe a little bit less than that. This is going to come off a little harsher than I mean it to, but we were going to try and get you in studio during the playoff run, but for games 1 and 2, you were down in Carolina, and then there wasn't a whole lot more, so we'll settle for now.
Just like our episodes, they always end a little too short.
That's it, man. Leave people wanting more, right? I know you are a craft beer guy. What have you brought to the table today?
Oh, it's not even craft. It's just a Stella Artois.
Oh, okay. You know what? Stella makes no enemies, man. It's a nice beer. There you go.
There you go.
Have you been over to, I know you don't live too far from the Cat. Have you been in lately? Have you tried anything new over there that stands out to you?
Oh, man, they cycle their taps like constantly, so you're always trying new stuff. Yeah, there's like Blood Brothers stuff. There's Third Moon. There's just like, which is a good brewery out of like Milton, Ontario.
Yeah.
But yeah, Wood Brothers has like a new Meow volume, whatever they're on right now, beer on all the time, like hazy IPAs usually. So it's just like there's always something that'll be tasty for your palate. But yeah, man, everything's going well. The beer's been good. I wish the Senators are still in the postseason.
Yeah,
makes my life a lot more fun, but it's cool to kind of like revisit, write a postmortem, which I'm working on right now. We had Brady Tkachuk's availability this morning. He wasn't there on Monday for locker cleanout day, so I'm sure we'll get into that as well. But it's been a busy last couple of weeks. Had the opportunity to travel to Carolina, watch the first 2 games of the postseason as well, which was a lot of fun. Had a blast hanging out with other journos.
Sure,
it was a lot of fun. It was great times and great food. Great beer, and yeah, man, it's been a busy last couple of weeks, but I'm home for the foreseeable future. My nights are all cleared out, so yeah, it's kind of surreal that the season's over, though.
It is. It feels like that a little bit every spring, whenever it happens, whether it be the end of the regular season, the end of the first round. As a Leaf fan, I assume there are other rounds. We don't participate in those very often, but it always feels like it's a little too soon, and you almost immediately go, all right, when's training camp? Like, how far out are we? Now, it helps that the Jays are good again, and that'll be entertaining through the summer. But
yeah.
Well, good-ish. I still expect it will be okay, but no, you're right to point out that at the moment, not so good. I got one sitting here, man. I'm not sure it's exactly appropriate for early afternoon on a Wednesday, but I'm riding with it anyway. This is from the Soda City Brewing Company. The blood of... I'm going to take a stab at this. Cthulhu. Cthulhu. Cthulhu is what I'm going with.
Like a demon or devil or something?
The art and the description would suggest that you're correct, but I'm not even certain I'm pronouncing that correctly. So 9.5% is the reason I'm not certain I need it right now, but it's been kind of staring at me in the fridge. And often, as you know, when I have people in studio, there's multiple beers. And I never want to start stacking up 10% beers in the middle of the day. So since there's only going to be one beer today, I feel like
unless you're planning for a nap, yeah.
Well, and let's not rule that out at this point. But, so that's what I'm going to ride with here today from Soda City. Look, I want to bounce around here. I got a few different things I want to ask you about the Sens, about the playoffs in general, about your travels to Carolina. But you are just back from the Brady Tkachuk press conference. As you mentioned, wasn't available on locker cleanout day for pretty legitimate reasons. I think everyone would agree as his family expands by one more. So he did return. He met with the media today. You were there, asked him a couple questions yourself, but took the whole thing in. Just in kind of a general sense, what do you make of his availability today?
It was interesting. Like it's always interesting to hear from him. He's usually pretty candid with his responses, and he's been very vocal about putting out his frustrations and just the stuff that he's been having to deal with. And, he let us know that his wife gave birth to their daughter like 14 hours after the Senators were eliminated in Game 4 of the postseason. So like, congratulations to the Tkachuk family. And
sure.
Everyone's happy and healthy there. But he was obviously dealing with a lot of, I shouldn't say stress, but it is a stress, right? Like you never know when your wife's going to deliver. And they were dealing with that on the side. He's already got a young child at home anyway. So he's been dealing with some stuff in addition to all the pressures and circumstances involved in the postseason, trying to get his team to advance to the second round for the first time in his captaincy. So, he's dealing with a lot of stuff right now, and understandably so. He wasn't available on Monday because he was back in New Jersey, and then he arrived back in town and was available to the local media today, so we had a chance to talk to him. And he didn't really say anything new per se, but as you know, like you've got the Austin Matthews situation in Toronto, where you're not you're not immune to the discussions that come with having an American-born
Connor
captain.
Hellebuck was hardly committing last week when he gave his availability, or 2 weeks ago.
It's not exactly a problem that's exclusive to the Ottawa Senators, but being a small market team in Canada, where your captain is the face of the franchise per se, he's the most marketable probably on the team, and he has a massive podcast that general hockey fans are watching all across North America and elsewhere. Brady Tkachuk's future is at the forefront of people's minds. Whenever there's adversity or whenever this team stinks and loses in disappointing fashion, it's like, Brady Tkachuk, what does he want to do? Does he want to leave? Does he want to stay? And it just, every time this happens, it's like this outside news media cycle churns back up. The Spitting Chicklets were talking on their podcast the other day. There's no fucking way that Brady wants to stay. He's gone this season. He's fucking gone this season. And
I think Dave Pignat at the fourth period was on a different outlet,
and it's
saying the same thing.
Yeah, and like Matt Larkin from the Daily Faceoffs writing about it too. This is the time to trade Brady. This is what you could potentially get. And it's like, it's just a news cycle where it's like one person says something and all of a sudden another person takes what they say and just kind of re-angles it for whatever take they want to do. And it's this self-fulfilling news cycle where it's like, hey, here's what we think, and it just generates a ton of clicks, and it's engagement farming, really.
And Brady came right from Matthew and the way he left Calgary, and then we just saw Quinn Hughes leave. Now, all these situations are not identical, but if you want to be kind of lazy, you can just go, well, big American star in a Canadian market with about 2 years left on his deal, or a little less than that, But that seems to be all there is to it, though. Like that,
and it's not just Americans, though, right, Matt? Like Connor McDavid goes through this every time. Like he signs a contract, and Edmonton
they're down 3-2 right now. We're going to be talking about that this summer if they go out in round one.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's not necessarily just an American thing, but I think like when you're a prominent American player, you go to the Olympics, you win a gold medal. People are already generally unhappy because Canada didn't finish first. You add that layer to it, and then you see the political ramifications of having Kash Patel in the dressing room afterwards, and someone's foolish enough to record it and then send it out to the masses afterwards for public consumption. It's like, there's some silliness involved with that as well. But then people just take that, like Brady. You talk about politics and everything else. You can't. This day and era. Especially with like the harsh tensions between the countries already. Yeah. It's just you add a layer.
Shout out Buffalo last night, though. Love you guys singing our anthem for us.
But there's a layer of like political stuff to this. Yep. To this, right? And, it's unfortunate because, you look at what Brady does in the community. You look at what he does for this organization, the city, and the charitable endeavors that he participates in. I don't think it's as black and white as people want to make it seem. It's just like people, if you're right wing, left wing, center, it's just if you don't conform to the ideals of whatever person is evaluating you, you can't coexist anymore. And that's just the society that we're in right now. It's just like rooting for two sports teams. There's no middle ground. You can't meet somewhere in the middle and just all get along, cooperate, and work towards like a progressive.
Well, let me ask you this about
it's that's the climate, unfortunately, and. Within reason, though, right? Like, there's obviously...
Sure, but the thing that Brady keeps saying, and he said it again today at his press conference, that those words have never come out of my mouth. I don't know why this is a thing. I feel like I've answered it hundreds of times. And yet, I don't know, Nichols, if you feel the same way that I do, but it feels like it's always in this weird double negative. I've never said that I don't want to say. Why can't you just sit here today on the microphone and go, hey, unless the organization has other plans, I'll see you at the captain's skates in September. I'll see you on day one of training camp. I'm the captain of the Ottawa Senators, and we got to get back to work. Like, it's always, I've never said I want to leave, as opposed to, hey, I'm here. I'm all in. I'm staying.
Yeah, well, he did say, I anticipate I'm talking to Steve Stais. And like I asked him today at his thing, I'm like, you have to recognize when he's talking about his future and everything else, where he's talking about the frustrations of like, this is always the news cycle. He's not bringing it up himself. I'm like, you have to recognize that with 2 years left in your contract, that aligns with this team's competitive window.
Right.
And, you know, your future, whether it's free agency, a trade, or an extension with the Senators, impacts that massively.
100%, man.
Massively. You have to recognize that. And then he didn't really give an answer to that. He just, like, I'm looking back at, like, before I jumped on the podcast, like, I was just reading his answer, and it's like, well, you know, it's a distraction that I don't want to get into. And, you know, when I talk to Steve, it's just about this team, myself,
but framing it the way
game.
I just did, don't you think he can end that distraction? Hey,
Well,
I'll
could.
see you in September.
Yeah.
Why won't you just say that?
I'd even go a step further. I would even go a step further and say, you know what? Like, I would totally entertain the idea of signing an extension with this team when the time comes. But he's like, we're not even at that point. I can't even discuss a contract. And he mentioned this in his availability. He's like, we can't even discuss a contract till like next July. So I'm not going to waste any energy talking about it now.
Right.
Essentially. And it's like, well, yeah, true. But you want to end this if you're frustrated by the outside noise and everybody talking negatively about your future with the organization. Say you want to be here. Say you want to stay here.
I'm the captain of the Ottawa Senators. It's the honor of a lifetime.
But beyond, but like he does that. He appreciates this market, and you know, he talked about the fans and their support at the end of the availability. But like, the only way you can curb this and shelf it is to just come out and say, I would entertain the idea of signing an extension with this team when the time comes.
That's all I'm saying. Stop couching it in the double negative. Like, I've never said I don't want to stay. Or like, stop. It's this weird word salad.
But it's also it's
safe.
It's the political answer. It's a politician's answer, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's saying stuff, but it doesn't really confirm anything. You know, he's not dissuading those from saying it again. It's just
as long as he's going to play it that way, this story's going to continue.
You know, whether it was the Linus Ullmark stuff where like Brady's name gets dragged into it online through some anonymous Twitter account for what was happening off the ice, or the Olympics. It's like anytime this adversity hits and the medias were forced, or I shouldn't say forced, but like compelled to ask a question about something that was happened, whether it was self-inflicted on a podcast, laughter at a disparaging joke made by the president of the United States in a post-game celebration, or anything else. It's like every time that there is this distraction or this event, the outside noise just gets louder and say, well, Brady's going to want out of there. How do you can't deal with this? It's like, well, most of it's self-inflicted, and there's an obligation on the part of the media asking these questions. It's not a matter of the Ottawa media being tough, but it's like,
your dad says you're unhappy with your ice time. Are you? That's a totally reasonable question, right? And
no, and I think like, you know, the words aren't coming out of his mouth, but I think it's really naive to believe that the conversations that are being had on Brady's podcast by his brother and dad, who often put him in difficult positions to defend himself. And I think like part of that is being like the younger brother, and they just like to rag on him and whatever. And like Keith has made fun of Matthew Tkachuk's team before. Like, that's not new. He's taken shots at him and his team as well.
All the talk about the injuries just in this most recent one, that was clearly directed at Florida. No, I'm done for the year.
Exactly. But like, it's not exclusive to Brady, but I think when you're getting put in those tough spots, it's only fair to assume that you've had these conversations with your brother and dad off the ice and off camera as well.
Sure.
Right? Like, that's a natural assumption. And I don't think it's unreasonable to assume that. So if you don't want to answer those questions, maybe have a conversation with your brother. I know it's a recorded podcast. You can edit that stuff out.
Edit that shit, man.
Yeah, if there's
I've said
an
some stuff on this
there.
show that I can tell you did not make it to the listener. Like, we've all been there.
You've got creative control.
This is
You've got creative control. You can get rid of it. But he said what he wanted to say today, and like, did we learn anything new? Not necessarily. Does it change my opinion of what could potentially happen? No. He didn't say he was going to sign an extension here, so this noise will continue until the next thing happens, once something else happens. But I will say, Matt, most of this outside noise is largely coming from outside this market. It's not the people here. But I think the concern here is amplified by the fact that it's an American-born player. You had all that political stuff happening around the time of the Olympics. You have a history in this organization's modern history of players leaving over stuff. It's
desire to draw a line to his brother, even if one doesn't really exist. Right?
Yeah, I think there is still like a little like post-traumatic stress disorder from like the Melnick era, where it's like people are always afraid. You know, distractions happen, people want out. But I think like this team's got a good enough young core that Brady's grown up with. He's told people repeatedly, whether it was on the Amazon episode that he had earlier this year in the fall, or like via media availabilities at that time too. He's his own man. He wants to write his own story. I don't know if that still appeals to him now. Maybe I should have asked him that question today, or even asked him if he had interest in signing an extension. But he's got an opportunity to write his own story. And maybe he wants to be different from his brother. Maybe he wants to be the face of a Canadian franchise and help push this team over the top. Sure. But every time something bad happens, everybody speaks out. The outside noise gets louder. We're forced to ask about it. And the cycle just continues. And I think it's going to continue until ultimately he signs an extension and tells Steve Staios, you know what? If I'm not signing an extension, maybe it's in your best interest to move me.
Just quickly before we move off this, in your opinion, and I'll go first. Look, he's talked himself into some trouble a couple times this year, or whether it's the podcast or the political stuff, whatever. I said all winter long, if he has a good drive to the playoffs and a solid playoff run, everyone will forget and everyone will love Brady again and it'll all be fine. That didn't really happen. They had a great sprint to the finish, made the playoffs, got swept. That undoes a little bit of the whatever. I don't think there's any chance he's leaving town this summer. In your opinion, the odds that he is in camp for Ottawa this September?
That's a good question. I think he has to. I think, like, whether he wants to or not, I think him and Steve Staios have to sit down and have an honest conversation. Mm-hmm. Because, like, this noise isn't just going to go away. It's only going to get louder as you approach that July 1st, 2027 date when they can actually formally negotiate an extension. I think there's a very good chance he'll be in camp next fall, because that's largely going to be the best opportunity for the Senators to have, like, their most competitive version of their lineup.
And for me, it's like 90-95%. It's not like 60-40. To me, he's going to be.
But at the same time, like, if you're also the general manager of the Ottawa Senators and you have reservations, or maybe just not concerns, but like if there is like that possibility that Brady,
well, everyone's drawing that line, right? Florida's about to get a high draft pick. Would they send that plus to Ottawa? And then
but like if there's a chance that Brady doesn't want to come back, or if he just wants to play elsewhere because he doesn't want to deal with the pressures of Canadian market or the noise in the Canadian. What's that?
Those tough Graeme Nichols questions.
Yeah, if there's a possibility that he's, like he feels like he's run his course here in Ottawa, like he's played most of his prime in a Canadian market, and he just, based off the distractions or the noise or whatever you want to call it, he's tired of answering these questions. Maybe he decides that he wants to go and have a quieter opportunity somewhere else. That's totally his right. Mm-hmm. He can ask for a trade, but if injuries happen this season, his trade value is probably never going to be higher. There are those discussions, right? I think like any manager who's doing his due diligence, and like Steve Staios referred to it, all that noise is nonsense.
Yeah.
But like realistically, you're not going to admit it publicly. But I mean, if you don't have an honest conversation with Brady 2 years before he's eligible, I just think that's not doing your job.
Sure. Any GM needs to know where everybody's at, what's happening, and look, let's zoom out for a second here on the Ottawa specific, the Senators playoff performance. Just tell me what it's like, man, to be in Carolina for the Stanley Cup playoffs. Is it a tailgate situation? Is the arena full of, like, when you look in the building, they look as passionate as any other market for a playoff game? Is it as barbecue and tailgate as we think it is? Is there any kind of vibe around Raleigh, or is it not till you get to the building? What was it like being down there to cover a playoff series in North Carolina?
So Raleigh's a weird city because it's all like sprawl. So like our hotel was adjacent to the arena, so like it was easy walking distance. You get there in like a couple minutes, and when you're walking to the rink from where we were, you're walking through tailgate culture, and it's like I love that American sports culture where it's just like people are out there, like it's a 7:30 game and people are out in the parking lot at like 1 or 2 p.m. just cooking. They've set up their tents and their shade from the sun, and they're just going to town, drinking, eating barbecue, having a blast. Like I love that. And like, the Senators play at the CTC, which arguably has like the largest parking lot in Eastern Ontario. I think he was even marketed it as that at one point by the organization. And they have, like, obviously it's cold 6 months of the year.
Yeah.
But you could you could totally have that culture, especially in the postseason. But like in Ontario, you got your red tape where it's like, yeah, tailgating's legal, but God, the venue's got to have a permit in order for you to do that. And if they don't have a permit, then you could get ticketed. And then it's just like this whole thing. It's like, I think the Senators kind of need to embrace that and market that. Be like, show up early. We'll have food trucks. We'll have whatever.
Yeah.
You know, bring your stuff. Have fun.
And they try to do something, right? They call it the red zone.
Yeah, they got the red zone. They got the red zone, but it's also like, and they do a good job. They have they offer $5 beers for people up to game time, I believe.
It's the same.
So like they're trying.
Jurassic Park in Toronto right now for the Raptors or whatever, but it's very corporate now, and you have to buy from us, and it's got to be permitted and stuff. Like you're right, Ontario's just not the same vibe.
But you could show up, like do it responsibly, obviously. But you could show up, barbecue, have a great time, tailgate, and like make it an event. And I think that's what they should be trying to do, especially as like if they ever go deeper in the postseason, just keep encouraging people to spend more and more time at the rink.
Right.
But yeah, it's like I love my time in Carolina. Like the food was unbelievable, but it is a sprawl. So it's like anytime you wanted to leave your area and go somewhere of consequence, it's like a 20 minute Uber, 20 minute Uber. So it's like almost like taking an Uber from like Barhaven to Canada,
right?
Just to like get like to a certain area of the town that's got restaurants or bars or whatever. And it's just, that part was a chore. And it was, you know, admittedly, it's like, you know, you're spending like 20, 30, $40 on an Uber ride American. It adds up pretty quick for one trip.
100%.
So
I remember Doug McLean telling a story when he was in Florida, and he went. This was after he was working for the Panthers, but he was still living down there. And he went to a bar that he said was literally across the highway from where the Florida Panthers were playing at the time. And he asked the bartender to put on the Panthers game. And it wasn't a Sunday, so the guy's like, the Panthers aren't playing today, right? Thinking the Carolina Panthers.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
And he goes, it's just not on their radar. And maybe because you were staying right beside the arena, like maybe it's an unfair question. Did you get any sense? I get it. In the building, they're clearly having a great time. They're clearly hardcore hockey fans there. Was there any sense, like in your hotel or in other places you visit, that there was any kind of vibe for the playoffs?
Oh, yeah. So the hotel where we were staying, like we bumped into people. Like one guy, so I had my like Ottawa Fire bag with me, duffel bag.
Yeah.
So he saw I was from Ottawa, so he came up and he was wearing a Canes hat and stuff. He's like, Ottawa, eh? And he starts trying to chat and talk hockey and stuff. Like there were people traveling there to the hotel from like places like Charleston, like guys who had recently just like fallen in love with the game. Their families like enjoyed the game, and then they jumped aboard too, who were experiencing playoff hockey for the first time, and they loved it. And anywhere you walked in the area, you know, there's Cane stuff all over the place. There's billboards and placards and stuff around the rink. But like further out, less so. But like there was still talk of it. And Raleigh's obviously like a big university town. You got like UNC, you got Duke, University of North Carolina, and NC State. Yeah, they got NC State. So you got a couple major universities there. So it is a bit of a collegiate town, but at the same time, people know who the Hurricanes are. They've been around for a long time now, right?
Sure,
so,
and they've been good for a long time, too.
Yeah, exactly. So it's there. It's not, there's no competing product. Like they got the Durham Bulls AAA team, but it's predominantly like the Hurricanes are the only professional sports team in town who are at like the highest level. You know, like Charlotte's got the Hornets and stuff, but I'm trying to think of where the Carolina Panthers play.
Bobcats. I've lost track of which one they are.
It's the Hornets now.
Okay,
Bobcats are old.
Back and forth. Okay,
but I'm trying to think of where the Carolina Panthers actually play. Must be
somewhere nearby.
Charlotte.
I know it's called like the Triangle, right? There's 3 cities, right? There's like Greensboro, Raleigh, and anyway, Durham.
Yep. And I've heard like Greensboro, their old arena situation was a bit of a dump, but yeah. What do you do? But it was good. I enjoyed my time there. It was good. Food was unbelievable. The drinks were great. The people there are so friendly. I can't understand a word they say. They speak so quickly, and they're all like y'all.
I went down to South Carolina 100 years ago now. Well, it's about 20 years ago now. Got off the plane, and for whatever reason, the cabbie who picked us up happened to be from just outside Toronto, which was super weird. And he's like, you know, don't tell them you're from Canada. He goes, they don't like Yankees. And you're like, all right. Like, and it turned out it couldn't have been further from the truth. Like, everyone was so friendly. And the first morning we go into this diner, though, and the woman offers up, you know, the waitress is offering us whatever for breakfast. And I said, you know, I ordered whatever breakfast I was going to have. And I said, grits on the side. Like, I'm in Carolina. I'm going to try this, right? And I had no idea what it was all about. And I ate about half of it. I didn't really care for it. She comes back. I'll never forget. She looks at my plate, looks at me, and she goes, I knew you Canadian ain't want those grits. And I'm like, okay. But she was friendly about it. Like, it was all It was cool, but just a slightly different vibe for sure. Let me ask you, I want to get your opinion here on a couple things that are going on around the rest of the playoffs, and I do want to circle back to the Sens before we finish up. Yep. But I think you're in a unique position here to maybe help me out, because right now, as we sit here on Wednesday afternoon, all the talk seems to be that Mats Sundin is going to be coming back into the Leafs organization.
It's always about your Leafs, eh?
Oh, yeah.
It's always about your Leafs.
And I'm going to tie the Sens into it. I know the Sens love that. Sens fans enjoy being the...
So Mats Sundin.
And at first it was sort of like, it sounded like maybe they'd bring him in as like some sort of advisor or to whatever this new group was going to be. And then Friedman reports on Wednesday morning that it's going to be more than that, and he's going to have a real role if he's doing this, and they're just waiting on his decision. And to me, this can only go one of three ways. He comes in with zero experience, and it turns out he's a genius, and all of this goes great, and he only, furthers his great reputation amongst Leafs Nation. He comes in with no experience, and he's terrible at this, and it ruins his reputation amongst Leafs Nation. Or he comes in with no experience and has no autonomy. He's just kind of pushed aside by Keith Pelly and MLSE and is sort of still on the hook for whatever goes wrong and ruins his reputation. To me, this doesn't feel that dissimilar to when Alfie returned to the Sens, except the Sens weren't silly enough to put him immediately in a position of power. It seemed like he was sort of welcomed back in a way that would allow him to learn. This was in management at the time. He's now moved down and on the bench and coaching. And this is the type of thing I worry about, because I don't know how serious it is, Nichols. I don't know how much you're hearing about it, but I'm seeing people at the end of the series saying, fire Alfie, because the power play was shit in the series, right? Like, you sort of risk tainting the legacy of a guy that fans love. If you were involved in this hiring committee for the Leafs, what would you be thinking about a Mats Sundin who has zero experience in terms of managing an organization?
Yeah, I don't think it dampens a legacy. I think like that's kind of like an overstated perspective, right? Like, I don't think like Daniel Alfredsson, like he was in hockey ops for a while, then he moved to coaching, and I don't think what he does as a coach or the performance of the team impacts what he meant to this organization as a player. I think like a totally separate thing. And ultimately he wound up leaving the organization twice, but people still love him like unconditionally.
Yep.
Like there's still that appreciation for everything that he does. So I don't think like that dampens anything. And I think like probably the best example is like Steve Yzerman in Detroit right now, where it's like people are dumping on his performance and just as an evaluator and as an NHL GM in Detroit, without having Julien Brisebois as his right-hand man.
Right.
And it's been a struggle for him in Detroit. And does that taint his reputation as a player in Detroit, or the legacy that he brought to that team? I don't think so. But it's like, it's just, you're looking at him through a totally different lens as an executive. And I think like in Mats Sundin's case, it won't damage his reputation as a player. I think like he was beloved for what he did throughout the years as the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. But I think like if he comes in, it will be as an executive who acts as like an intermediary between like Keith Pelly and that brass and the hockey ops department. I don't think they're going to put him in a position where he's making decisions without having that experience. And I don't think like I don't believe he would take an AGM role. But if he is, I don't believe he's in talks to become the general manager, right? Like I think it's down to like the three finalists.
It sounds like the vice president of hockey ops, and then there would be a GM, but no president of hockey.
So it sounds like what they might do with Steve Yzerman after this year, right? Where it's like they might move him to a higher level role and then let someone run the day to day, so he's not taking shots from the fans and outsiders. They're just going to let him manage.
The Leafs, as you've referenced on your show a couple times there, Nichols, on Coming in Hot, maybe short of some brilliant maneuvering here over the next year or 18 months, appear to be entering their downward slide or whatever. I don't know if I'm Mats Sundin, if this is the moment to step in, right? Like maybe.
No, but I disagree. I think like this is the moment to step in, because
when
you can
things
drive
are about to
that,
get ugly.
But you can drive that direction, push in the direction that you want. And I think inevitably, whenever you make that switch and you bring in new people and you go to that down cycle of a franchise development, it's like when you make that decision to leap for a rebuild, that affords you time. Like when you hire people at the beginning of the rebuild, typically they're here for a while.
Sure.
And expectations are low, and
I just don't think they're prepared to do that yet. I think they're going to try for another year, crash and burn, and then try the rebuild.
Yeah, and like I've heard them reference, I think it was Keith Pelly during his media availability at the end of the season, reference like the Boston Bruins as being an example of a team that you're like, oh, we can model ourselves after that. It's like, well,
does anyone believe they're a contender?
I don't
they
think
bounce
that's
back
like,
nicely, but they're not contending.
They're in the mushy middle. Like they're propped up by like David Pastrnak had like a Hart Trophy-esque level year.
And Jeremy Swayman as a Vezina.
Jeremy Swayman has a Vezina season. So it's like, are you going to get with the exception of like Austin Matthews, like what else are you getting from that Toronto lineup that's going to drive this much further? Like most of the guys who are on that roster played at their level or near it.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, you can get healthier goaltending. Obviously, that's one of the bigger things. But there's no Jeremy Swayman walking through that door.
There is not a Jeremy Swayman walking through that door. What has surprised you as we watched this first round unfold outside of the Senators Hurricanes? If you're not watching, the Sens through that first week and now this second week, which series have had your attention, man? What's caught your eye?
Well, I mean, Anaheim Edmonton's the big one.
Yeah.
I think everybody anticipated a dogfight between Minnesota and Dallas, so that doesn't really surprise. Colorado disposed of Los Angeles pretty quickly, but I think like Edmonton, Anaheim has been a great tilt because you're always wondering. It's like, especially with Edmonton, right? You're like, the team's a mess heading into the postseason, not getting goaltending, but you're like, that top level talent will help them persevere. Mm-hmm. Obviously, McDavid experiences an injury, doesn't look quite at the level that we're accustomed to seeing him play at, but it's a bit of a dogfight. Like that series is just, there's lots of push, and I like watching young teams kind of find themselves a little bit.
Well, let me draw a line for you, and you can tell me if you see it the same way I do, but we saw Pittsburgh go down 3-0, and then when it was time for Philly to close it out, Sid scores early and kind of punches them in the mouth in Game 4 and said, hey, you're going to have to finish the job here. When Utah is up 2-1, Vegas comes out in the first period of their Game 4 and grabs a quick 2-0 lead again and kind of forces those kids back to a, hey, you're going to have to really work for this. And then just last night, we saw a very similar thing when Anaheim was up 3-1, and before the game gets to its first commercial break, the Oilers are up 3-0. They throw an elbow into Anaheim's mouth. Is this just coincidence in the dynamics of those series, or is there something to, hey, there are some young teams here that have all made really nice showings, but there's a veteran presence that is able to say, hey, like, you have not done the hard part yet and are really putting a stake in the ground here.
Yeah, but there's like that old hockey adage where it's like the hardest game to win is the fourth.
Sure.
Right? To clinch, because that's when teams have their backs up against the wall. They have nothing to lose. You got to go all in and finish it. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like a veteran thing, because like too often, how many times have you seen a young team have success and you're like, they're just too young and stupid to realize what they're doing.
Yes.
Right. So it's just like you fit the narrative to the circumstances that are happening on the ice. But Anaheim's a great story. Young kids who are excelling, and it's entertaining to watch. But
I don't know what's happened to Dostal. Like since all of April, he's got like an .850 save percentage back into the regular season.
Yeah, he was one of those guys that I liked during the regular season as well. So yeah, it's weird. But like the Eastern Conference, you mentioned Pittsburgh, Philly, and I don't think either of those guys are legitimate contenders, so to speak. I think like Carolina should dispose of them pretty quickly. But like Carolina, watching that Ottawa series, it's like, Ottawa's missing their entire blue line essentially, with the exception of like Jordan Spence, Thomas Chabot's playing with one arm. They didn't go through Ottawa cleanly. Like obviously the score, like 4-0, it's a sweep, but it's like none of those games were like walks. Like every game was a chore and a challenge and a grind, and they just didn't, for whatever reason, like they didn't finish the chances. And I think like that's historically been kind of like the knock on Carolina. It's like, yeah, they can play well, they can defend well, but like they don't have the finish necessarily at the times that they need it to like advance. And they got great performances out of that second line, the Stankoven, Hall, and Blake line, but like the first line of Jarvis, Aho, and
they were held
Svechnikov didn't do anything.
Nope.
Didn't do anything. Ottawa shut them down. So it's like if Carolina can get some more finish and polish, I think they're in good shape to escape the East. But if they fall short, ultimately it's going to come down to finishing skills.
What have you made of Montreal, Tampa? Because that one has been perhaps the most entertaining outside of Minnesota, Dallas, in terms of going head to head. And I don't know, man. I didn't think Montreal was quite there yet to hang with Tampa. I know they finished, if not with the same amount of points, very, very close. But I just felt when we got to the playoffs, you'd see Vasilevsky and you'd see the big group. Now at 5-on-5, Tampa's big guys are crushing Montreal's big guys, but that's not the way a series works. That's not the only thing that matters. I think that one, as you and I speak, is at 2-2, Game 5 tonight. Where are you at with that one?
It's so for me, it's like I've seen JJ Moser was a really good player who's kind of underrated coming out of Arizona, or I guess it would be Arizona, Utah, but like
Utah, yeah, when they made the trade,
just like he's stood out to me, especially in the absence of like Victor Hedman. Obviously, like that's a massive blow.
Who did skate this morning? They're hoping
for Tampa. That's a massive blow for Tampa.
Sure.
But like Brandon Hagel's been next level. Like their top end guys have been really, really good. But like Brayden Point, I don't know. I think he's got like 1 goal in 4 games. Like he hasn't played at the level that we expect for a guy of his caliber. I think he's also like a minus player. But I feel like Tampa's got another level to their game. Nick Paul hasn't done anything yet.
The counterpoint would be for Montreal.
I think Vasilevsky's the better, but like Dobish has played really well. I think he's given him a chance to win every game.
And Vasilevsky hasn't. Like, how many playoffs are we going to go, well, it was the back thing? Well, he did the back surgery and he came back, had a full, like at some point, playoff Vasilevsky's a story here. Like,
for sure. And I think like the issue for Montreal is like their best players aren't getting the job done at even strength. Like they've got power play points coming at the yin yang.
Yes.
Like Hudson's got 4. Caulfield's got 4.
To me, that would make me feel okay.
Suzuki's
like
got 4.
Get
but like
going.
all their damage is happening on the power play. Like they're not getting the job done there. Like,
and as we know,
Cole Caulfield's a -5. Nick Suzuki, who's a candidate for the Selke, is a -4.
But as we know, as the series goes on, fewer and fewer penalties get called. Like that's going to become a problem for them. And yet I do kind of feel like,
especially because it's a smaller team on the wings, right?
Yeah.
When you have those small teams and you're not necessarily going to the dirty areas of the ice, it becomes harder and harder for you to score. So if you're not, fortunately, they are getting it done on the power play. And like Lane Hudson's just a phenom
100%.
With the man advantage and doing
Dobson
the things that he
also
does.
Skated
but like
today, I don't know how close.
That's true too. That's a good point.
Yeah,
that's a great point. But like Montreal, it's like, you know what? Like they've proven stuff to me. Like they compete.
Yes.
Like that's not a team that just rolls over in the postseason because they're not the biggest team. Like
I look at that top line.
They're competing
and I go,
for every inch of that ice.
They're not going to stay quiet through this whole thing. Like yes, it hasn't been. They will find a way to break through. I believe at some point here in these next 2 or 3 games. I still think Tampa wins it, but man, Montreal's putting up a hell of a fight. That's been a great series. Why don't we come back to Ottawa here and just sort of, in the early days of the offseason, as you're looking ahead at what needs to happen throughout the summer, leading up to the draft and free agency, there's a lot of talk about Batherson needing a new deal. I think the Sens have to do it. They need scoring on the wings. You can't let him leave or trade him and then just be replacing him. You need him plus something. When you look at the urgent moves that have to happen here or evaluations that have to happen, what do you think the offseason looks like for the Sens?
I think first and foremost, you have to have a conversation with Brady. I know we talked about this earlier, but like until you get a gauge of what direction he's leading you in, and maybe he says like, hey, I'm not ready to have these conversations. We'll have them next July when I'm eligible for an extension, but I think you got to get your finger on the pulse of what he's thinking. Right? And like if that doesn't happen this summer, maybe you start going down the road of like, oh, maybe we have to start doing our due diligence on like where he would want to go if we have to go down that route, which I know like that'll drive people nuts. But I mean, that's part of being an NHL general manager. You can't just like find out in July of 2027 that like, oh, Brady's not coming back next year. He's not willing to sign an extension now. He's willing to go to free agency. Well, it's like we can't afford to lose him for nothing. Right? If he's not willing to sign an extension next summer, we're not willing to lose him for nothing. So maybe you entertain the idea of moving him this summer. But at the same time, he's also protected by a full no move clause.
Right. He's not going anywhere he doesn't want to go.
He controls his own fate. But ultimately, if he shows that he wants to stay too, like that's great for the organization and would placate a lot of fans.
That shuts a lot of narratives up, right?
But
like it's
Yeah, absolutely. But I think like you look at the struggles of the first line, and so everyone gets pissed off with the postseason because, like Brady Tkachuk 0 points, Tim Stützle's got 1 assist, Carter Yakimchuk had more points in one playoff game than everybody but 3 people. I think it was like Dylan Cousins, Sanderson, and Batherson.
Yeah.
So everyone's upset about the offense not producing, not finishing their chances when they had them. You got to recognize that Carolina's an unbelievably talented team.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the worst matchup for Ottawa, based on the style of play, their forechecking, the pressure that they put on defense to break the puck out. When you lose a Jake Sanderson, when you lose an Artem Zub, when you lose your first pairing on defense, when you have Tyler Kleven out of the lineup with a broken jaw,
when you have Thomas Chabot,
when you have Thomas Chabot playing with one arm who can't move a puck with strength because he has nothing on his passes or shot, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. You're in trouble if you were healthy, let alone if your blue line's decimated. And where does offense start, Matt? It starts from the back end.
Sure does, Graeme.
If you can't break the puck out effectively, if you can't go through the neutral zone with speed, if you can't dump the puck in, or I shouldn't even say dump the puck in, but if you can't get the puck through the neutral zone, you can't enter the zone effectively. You can't dump it in effectively. You're always constantly exhausted. So when you get to center ice, you have to dump to get a change. You have no chance to forecheck. It takes away your game. And that's the strength of Ottawa's game. They play the same way as Carolina in many respects. They forecheck hard. They force turnovers. They put pressure on your defense. And Carolina just did a better job of it than Ottawa did in the series,
Nichols,
because Ottawa's back end was decimated.
And you know me, because I'm the blue guy. I took a beating for this. But I said at the beginning of that series when Rob and I did our preview, I said Carolina in 5. But I said 5 really tight games. And I said it's because Ottawa's facing a more fully evolved version of themselves, a more fully developed. This is what Ottawa is going to be in a year or two. But Carolina is it now, and they're going to do the things that you want to do, and they're going to do it just a little bit better. So I expected 5 close games, but for Carolina to get through it pretty cleanly, and that's essentially what happened. Now, I couldn't have predicted that the top pair would both bow out of the series, right? And I those sorts of things you never see coming. But to me, this was just... all the people that said, there was some people out there saying this is the matchup for Ottawa. I'm like, this is not the matchup. You want Buffalo, who's going to skate right into the things you do well. And it just didn't.
It's tough, though, because going into the series, I thought Carolina wasn't a very physical, hard team to play against. Obviously, they're stifling defensively, but they play that system where it's like, they force you to make decisions a little bit. They force you to play with pace and make decisions. On your show, coming in hot,
Aaron Ward said, here's what Florida keeps doing to Carolina. Ottawa needs to do a little bit of that. And it turns out Carolina showed up prepared to do that this year, right? And to be a little more physical
in the first game, they had 96 hits between the two teams combined. Carolina had 57 of them. And you're like, how sustainable is it? Over the course of the series, it wasn't sustainable. Right. Carolina kind of got away from that. But that first game, I thought Carolina played as flawless of a first game as you could expect.
Yep. And then Ottawa could have had game 2. That's a double overtime game that could have goes either way. That changes the series. It goes Carolina's way, and now you're behind the 8 ball, right?
And it's like going into the series, you're like Freddie Anderson. That's if Linus Ullmark or Freddie Anderson is at their best, Ottawa should have the edge in terms of goaltending. Yep. And Ottawa, I think, was very close to having the edge in goaltending, but Freddie Anderson played really well. He made some unbelievable saves. The posts helped him out. I think there was 6 or 7 posts and 2 crossbars in the series.
Yes.
Which you can't control. It's just that's
bad luck.
You got to be lucky. You got to be good, and you got to be lucky in the postseason. And Ottawa was okay, and they were unlucky. And it puts you behind the 8 ball a little bit. And you're not going to win if your best players don't score goals. You're not going to win if Brady Tkachuk doesn't have a goal. You're not going to win if Tim Stützle doesn't have a goal.
You guys had an interesting debate on your show yesterday, I believe it was, about what to do with some of the UFAs coming, and it pertains to the blue line. And look, I think Jordan Spence through the second half of the season showed a lot better out of necessity. Like they were forced to use him more, and suddenly he showed what he could do a little bit. Nick Jensen, I don't think most people expect will be back.
No, he's gone.
Artem Zub, I think, has 1 year left. Is that right?
Yep.
On his deal.
Yep.
What do you think they need to do this offseason on the blue line? Would you be looking to extend Zub? Are you comfortable with Spence in your top 4? What would you be? You got Yakimchuk coming. it starts to have, now you have two kind of similar guys in Spence and Tkachuk, and you're like, what would you be looking to do with the blue line?
So I think like Spence and Zub are different from like your prototypical defensive defenseman in the sense that like those guys defend with their sticks and gap control. Mm-hmm. They're not physical guys. They're not going to move your battle hard and be punitive in front of the net.
Sure.
In front of your own net. Like they defend a certain way, but like they're very, very competent at it. And Jake Sanderson, kind of similar in many respects, like great skater, defends well. Mm-hmm. Just an all-around competent player, and he hits a little bit more than people would anticipate. But like Thomas Chabot's obviously the different, softer link, but invaluable puck mover when he's healthy. And then you got Tyler Kleven on the back end, who's physical, and he showed. I thought when he came back in the postseason, where like he showed more than any other Senators defenseman, he could absorb the contact, he could absorb the pressure of the Carolina Hurricanes, and actually make smart and soft plays with the puck. To help break pucks out. I thought he was unbelievable at it. You've got him on the third pairing. They might need to get a little tougher just in terms of their physicality and what they do. But I think you can't just bring in someone who's more physical and tougher. I think like they got to play within the system. They got to be able to close.
Can I interest you in a Philippe Myers, right?
But like they don't want a team that like collapses and contains, right? Like they pressure.
Yes,
And Carolina is very similar to that. If you can't skate and pressure forwards in the neutral zone to force them into bad decisions, to turn the puck over, whether it's through like bad decisions, poor dump-ins, whatever, they're not a target for the Ottawa Senators. I think they got a specific kind of player in mind for how they defend, and it's just up to them to go and get that player. But Chabot, I think, would be the different piece on that back end, where he's not the most all-around defender. I think he has his limitations defensively, but he makes a lot of money, and he's been here for a long time. He's a dressing room glue guy.
Big piece of the culture, yeah.
He's a huge piece of the culture, and for a team, especially filled with like American-born players playing in a Canadian market, glue guys are important. Very, very important.
Well, and
so
maybe
we'll
it's overstating it, but a French-Canadian guy in this market matters too, right? Like it maybe
for sure. Especially you don't know what's going to happen with Claude Giroux either.
Right.
So
yeah, I think there's a lot of marketing and guys that your fan base relate to and love that has been here since some pretty dark times and are now contributing through better times. Yeah, it'd be a tough move to let that guy go.
But Matt, in saying that, if Carter Tkachuk graduates to the parent level, you put him on the third pairing with like Tyler Kleven. Mm-hmm. It gives you some offense, gives you some bang and snarl. Like Tkachuk's a bigger guy. I think he can find his physical game. I know he was kind of like that in the WHL.
Right.
Obviously, the players are bigger and faster at the NHL level, so like it remains to be seen if he can bring those elements to the NHL level. But like he's got some offensive talent and confidence, so he can do some things for them. He should improve the power play. Like,
do you expect, like, is it a foregone conclusion? Like anything's possible, but do you expect him night one? He's in the opening night lineup.
I guess it depends on what they want to do in terms of ads.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. But like I anticipate Jordan Spence being back. The issue, I think the issue for the Senators is like, how do you make this team better? And like I asked Steve Stais this and his availability at the end of the year. It's like you don't have a blue chip prospect in the system with the exception of Carter Tkachuk.
Right.
You got your 32nd overall pick back. Mm-hmm. So you have like all your draft picks in the next 3 drafts, but it's like you don't have a ton of NHL ready capital that you'd be willing to move to help move this thing along. So how do you make this roster better without touching the parent roster? It's going to be very, very difficult.
Last thing for you then, the vibe coming off of Claude Giroux this year versus last year felt different to me. Doesn't mean anything. He gave the guy a couple of weeks to cool off after a playoff loss, and I can't imagine him going anywhere else. But do you think he's got another year in him? Will he and the Sens find a way to come to an agreement to see him back for another year?
So I thought like what he said this year versus last year was like diametrically opposed. And last year it was asked to him, the question was posed to him, it's like, do you still think you're a good player? And he's like, yeah, I do. I still think I'm a very good player.
What do you want me to say to that?
When he was asked, like, like, can you still play? Are you close to retirement. He's like, no, I'm still a very good player. He had that kind of confidence and swagger to him. And this year it was like, well, we'll see. I need I need time away. And like, he didn't say that last year. And last year it was a very difficult first round series against Toronto where it's like, yeah, it was a disappointing loss. They obviously pushed back. They got it close in game 6. David Perron scores. Max Pacioretty scored shortly thereafter, and the season's over. Yeah. And that was a devastating game 6 loss. This year, yeah, they got swept, but it wasn't a true sweep in the sense that they were like completely outmatched and outclassed. Every game was close. Every game was tightly contested. They just didn't get the job done. And yeah, it sucks. And Claude's like 1 year older, but at the same time, like he didn't close the door on retiring or moving on. And I think that that's the difference. I think he can still play. Like he put up 49 points, but I think the reality for the Senators is like, how do you get better? And it's probably not with Closier in the top 6.
No.
Which lends itself to the question. It's like, okay, so how does he fit? If you got Warren Fogle, Shane Pinto, and Michael Amati already penciled in on the third line, how do you get better? And it's like, well, if Closier becomes a 4th line player who takes key draws, we can move him around, play him on special teams.
Yep.
There's enough of a workload where like he could play year to year from here on in. But they need to go ahead and get a top 6 guy. They probably need to clear the deck, get rid of Fabian Zetterlund's contract and responsibilities. And they need to massage and maneuver the roster a little bit.
The door can't be left open for top line Claude Giroux anymore. Like that's he's still a very useful player who can absolutely contribute, but you can't be tempted to go back to that, right? Like
right. And I think if you watch Timmy in the postseason, there was that one clip of him on the bench, and like he was talking to the coaching staff, and he's like, nobody is open.
Right.
Like there's nobody who's like, when he gets his zone entry and he turns around, he's looking and there's nobody skating with him. There's nobody in space.
Right.
And he was having a hard time in the postseason. And it's like, maybe you have to go find that guy, whoever he may be, who can play with a guy who's not necessarily a north-south guy. He's a burner who's got some east and west. Well, I shouldn't say a little. He's got a lot of east to west to him in the offensive zone. Like he's not the easiest guy to play with, but
well, modern day Corey Perry, like someone who's just going to bowl in there and get to the net, like Pat Maroon, like not these guys specifically, but that type of guy, like
or someone with more speed who can skate with him and open up some lanes and create a little bit of space by drawing coverage to him and helping Timmy in that respect. And I think like that's where Timmy kind of struggled. I think like he would get into the zone and then he would turn to look for an outlet, and he would have a secondary Carolina Hurricanes player in his face, taking away that time and space, and like he just didn't have the clean looks that he would normally get in the regular season. And I think it frustrated the hell out of him. But how do you address that? Yeah, can you find that guy? Is he available? And it's like, not only is he available, but do you have enough to get him and acquire him? Like I think like a guy like Alex Tuck would be unreal.
Sure.
But the reality is he's an unrestricted free agent. Buffalo's having a great season. There's going to be 31 other teams looking at him and saying, hey, we'd like to have you on a roster. And it's like, if you're the Ottawa Senators, how do you, other than paying him the most amount of money, how are you going to attract that guy to come here?
Well, this is it. Like in a weak free agent class, everyone will throw money at that. And there are lots of teams out there with more cap space than Ottawa.
Anthony Mantha is being listed as like one of the top 10 free agents in the class.
It's not a good class. It's not a good class.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild. But maybe that sets the market for like guys like Fabian Zetterlund, where it's like, hey, we can't get some of these guys because they're going to make an absurd amount of money.
I can't believe how poorly that's gone. I really liked that trade for Ottawa at the time. It has not worked at all. Like
a lot of empty calories. Yeah. Works hard, tries really hard, but it's like if he's not goal scoring, he's not doing a hell of a lot on the ice.
Yeah. No, that was,
but he works hard. Like he tries as hard as he can. He hits people. He does everything else. But
that was
like,
an under the radar steal, in my opinion, at the deadline a year ago when they did that. And like, as someone who doesn't care for the Sens, I wasn't happy to see it. I'm stunned at how it's played out. Like,
just pucks die on a stick.
Yeah,
it was like Dylan Cousins was this way in the postseason, where it's like just plays along the half wall and stuff. It's like when Fabian Zetterlund had the puck, it's just if he wasn't shooting it and scoring, it was leading to turnovers. He was just died on his stick, unfortunately. And Dylan Cousins had that problem in the postseason. It's like plays along the half wall, especially on the power play. They had to take him off the power play because he was just turning it over way too much. It happens.
As we wrap up here, man, what's coming up for you? What do you got coming up in the hockey news? What's coming up on Coming In Hot? What are we going to hear out of Graeme Nichols here in the next little bit?
So tomorrow's Coming In Hot episode is all about Brady, obviously, given today's media availability. But in terms of the hockey news, I'm still working on my postmortem. I'm working on a Brady piece following today's events, so you can keep an eye out for those. And other than that, hope to take a couple days off and relax and just enjoy the rest of my vacation this week. But it's been a whirlwind for the last few weeks, but it's been a lot of fun. But always enjoy my time on Tall Can Audio.
I appreciate that, man. And as I said to you before we started, the last couple of these we've had to do online. I owe you a couple of pints. So as things settle down here and the smoke clears on the Sens season, we'll get you back in studio and for a beer or two, man. So I appreciate this as always. You've come through for us a couple times this year, so thanks a lot, man. We will link to your work at the Hockey News and Coming In Hot in the show notes at tallcanaudio.com or wherever you're hearing us right now. Nichols, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
No worries. I hope Mats Sundin doesn't destroy his legacy for you.
So do I, man. Come on, just... Okay, that's more of that for another day. We'll wrap it up here. We're on social media at Tall Can Audio. Give us a follow there. Subscribe to the pod wherever you're hearing us right now. For Graeme Nichols, my name is Matt Robinson. I should, if I was better at this, I'd have teed it up off the top as well. Our next guest on Friday morning, Dan Schulman, the voice of your Toronto Blue Jays, will be back on the podcast. Lots to cover with him, so we'll look forward to it.
That's a hell of a step up. Hell of a step up.
I don't know, back to back here, Nichols and Schulman. It's a good pair, man. We're having a good week.
He's got a better voice than I do too.
Oh man, he's got a better voice than just about all of us, man. It's back during the pandemic. We went back to back. Tim McAuliffe, Dan Schulman. Those were big boy voices on the podcast.
No kidding.
In one week, man. So
no kidding. Well, your voice is good too, though. You've got a great voice for this stuff. So
man, you're a good baritone. There's a group of us out here. We'll form a quartet or something. Try and fire up some barbershop too. Yeah, that's it. Right. Thanks for listening, everybody. For Graeme Nichols, my name is Matt Robinson, and we'll catch you on Friday morning.